My friend, welcome to the world's best kept secret podcast, a podcast that brings you exclusive interviews from experts all over the world with life-changing work that you didn't even know existed. I'm your host, Prima Jobs, a partner for those that are ready to take their life-changing work in front of those whose life or business depends on it. Please follow or subscribe for more. Today on the show, I am excited to bring to you my dear friend, Rick Torrison, who has been in the business for 20 years. I don't know how long you've been in business, but Rick has been doing this, getting burnt, working in the weeds with clients for 20 years. Rick is the founder of Right Now Leadership LLC. He's also the founder of Revival Rivers nonprofit. Rick is an author, international speaker, leadership and success coach with John Maxwell. What I would love to learn from Rick today is everything that he had to learn the hard way, that nobody told him was coming. Rick, welcome to the show, and I am honored to have you today.
Yeah, Prima, I'm honored to be with you. I know that you are just launching this thing, so I'm gonna just speak a life over you for everybody who starts watching this or goes back, because when you blow up and you're all over the world and this thing just takes over, they're gonna go back and start looking at some of the early episodes and they're gonna laugh and have a good time. And I want everyone to hear that I think that you are really an amazing woman who is accomplishing great things by helping coaches and coaching coaches and speaking life and calling out greatness and helping people get from where they are to where they want to be. And so I've been honored to get to know you. It's been fun through our little community that we ran into each other and watching each of us kind of wrestle through where we are and what we desire to do and the dreams and visions that we have. And man, I'm excited to be a little bit of a part of that, right? A little piece of that as it just kind of, as this part of it, the podcast launches. Man, I'm so excited that and honored to be here with you. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to our time today. I really am. So
it's this is my perfect dream. Building something from the ground, imperfect. I want people to see the first episode. I want them to see 10th episode. I want them to see number 100, and I want them to see 1,000. So that one day when I'm on this big stage and I'm having these big things happening, they go, oh my God, we saw the first thing where she was literally like, she didn't know what she was doing. And so I'm hoping, I'm hoping that this will give everyone permission to go, because you don't need anything perfect. You don't need to know it all. You don't need to have it all. You will see me grow this show by the day, make things better by the day. And by day 1,000, you will say, oh my God, maybe I can too. And that's my dream. Tell us about your story. Like, how did you get here? How did you go through the 20 years of business and not crash and die? Like, tell us the story. Like, tell us how you got here.
Well, I think I've crashed, died, and been reborn multiple times in the process. I just want you to know that this is what you're staring at today is a recreation and a building of and a re-imaging of a human who has been through a lot of stuff. You know, what I love about this, Prima, and what you're talking about is, and what I'm finding in my own world and how we're communicating, people are after something that's real, because life is intense right now. The world around us is challenging at best. And there's so many people who have reached levels of success in their lives, but yet still feel like there's more, feel like, man, I'm still empty. I'm still struggling. I'm still wrestling. And so I think these kinds of conversations, this podcast that you're doing, the way you help coaches, I really think this is important because, you know, we can put on a slick presentation, we can polish everything up and it can look all perfect. But the reality is behind the scenes, which is what you're talking about, it's not always clean and neat. You know, you and I have talked as you were figuring this out, and there was no way you were going to do a podcast, and there's no way you're going to do this. Like, I can't. And then here we are, a couple months later, and you're like, no, I'm out there. I'm going to put myself in this place. I'm going to be real. I'm going to be raw in this. They're going to watch me learn and grow. Man, there's something really powerful about that, right? And so, you know, in my journey, it's been that evolution of self realization, kind of self revelation. But here's what I've learned. I didn't know what I didn't know, right? And so I'm living life with a mindset and a belief system from early childhood all the way to, you know, I'm 60. So in this world, you know, it's a world of, for me, which I would challenge everyone, is their story's not over yet, right? Wherever you are, it's not the end of the story. And so what does that mean? That means that as long as you're walking, as long as you're engaging, and it doesn't matter how big the step is, as long as you're moving forward, there's growth, there's opportunity, there's transformation that is happening. And we want the quick fix. We want to get from A to Z in one step. And I'm like, you know, I think it's the journey that defines us and makes us who we are in the process. And so, you know, for me, I started out in a single parent home with my mom and my gram raising me in the early 60s, when a time of being a single mom, not married with a child, wasn't something that you would talk about. You didn't hold it out there as anything. It was more of a shame place than it was anything else. And so there was a lot of challenges, a lot of mindset things that happened early in our lives. You know, I wrote this book, and I know we'll talk about a little bit, called Born Limitless. And it's really a short, simple book about the mindset that we take on about ourselves, our lives, the people and world around us, that sometimes these limiting beliefs that we have hold us back and make us build a ceiling over our lives that limit us and keep us from actually reaching our true potential that we were called and created to walk in. And sometimes we hold these beliefs, Prima, for so long, we don't even know we have them anymore, and we call them normal. And my question and my challenge is, what if that normal that we're living in isn't actually normal? Right?
No.
What if there's something greater there, but we have settled for something less? Right. And so it's not really, I know you asked, so my story's been this journey of understanding that I have adopted beliefs in my life based on experiences. Those beliefs that I've adopted demanded me to act a certain way, behaviors. Those behaviors produced outcomes in my life. What I didn't realize is those beliefs that I took on from those experiences, the experiences were real, but the beliefs that I took on weren't necessarily true. Just really quickly, I had an abusive babysitter at 6 years old. I tell the story in my book. That experience as a 6-year-old, I didn't know how to define it, interpret it, understand it. I didn't know what to do with it. And there was no one helping me. And I didn't say to that person, that babysitter, stop, this isn't right. I didn't know how to process what was happening in my life, right? And so we internalize it. And what do? And we all do this. We have an experience. We begin to define and interpret that experience, what it must mean. I must have done something. I must be bad. All women are like this. I started to create this mindset and definition of my life, my value and my worth, and this idea of females, what they want, what they're after, what this interaction looks like. So that's how I interpreted the experience. That interpretation became my belief system.
Wow.
I must not be valuable. I must not be worthy. There must be something wrong with me. I somehow did something to cause this to happen. All of those things, right, became a belief. And if that's my belief that I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I don't have the opportunity, then my actions, my behaviors will begin to reinforce that belief.
Wow.
And so then all of my life, until I met my wife, who we've been married for 33 years, but until I met her, my whole life behind me was this wake of broken relationships with women. Why? Because I had a mindset about them that they just want this, and I'm not going to let that happen. So I'm going to control these relationships, and I'm going to act a certain way. I'm going to behave a certain way because of what I believe about women that isn't going to allow anything to happen to me. And so I had
Oh.
all of these broken relationships till I met my wife. And I said, man, I love her. I want to be with her the rest of my life. But if I keep acting this way,
Mm.
we're not going to make it. But I didn't know what was going, why I was doing that. Right. And so it's a lot of words. I shared a lot there for the people that listen, but it's really helping to understand that we've taken on some beliefs based on how we've interpreted environments and situations and things that happened to us.
Mm.
Here's the thing. The things that happened to us were real. What happened to me with that babysitter was real. It wasn't okay. 100% not okay. Real emotions, real feelings, not good. But how I defined it was a lie. The
Oh.
way I defined what happened was a lie. I must be, I'm not, they are. So I had to go back to that experience and go, okay, let me redefine it.
Mm.
That experience didn't define me as being bad or deserving of it, or that all women were this way. And I had to reshape and redefine the experience. Why? Because when I redefined it, I could then build new behaviors because I changed my belief. All women aren't like this. I am not a bad person. I don't deserve this. I didn't ask for this. So I shifted it all, changed new beliefs around that, around me and the world around me, so that I could then have new behaviors.
Mm.
So my wife and I would actually be married for 30 some years.
Oh.
Right.
This,
So, but if I wouldn't have done that, we wouldn't have made it. So I
this,
needed to shift all that. So
yeah.
anyways, let me let you get in. I'm sorry.
There's a lot
That's kind of the
there,
journey that
but
I've been on.
I need you to unpack a little bit. So you're raised by a single mom. Okay. Did you pick anything there that contributed? So you were born by a single mom, you get abused, and now you start dating, and you realize it's not going well with women because of how you have been conditioned to think about women. And you keep going and realize, man, women are bad or whatever. And now you meet this person and you're like, maybe it's about Rick, maybe it's me, maybe I need to do. I want you to go slowly and walk someone through who might have these things, but maybe they are not aware. Because having a single mom is one thing, being consciously aware of how that has become your identity is another. Being abused is one thing, consciously knowing that I was abused and this is what it's translating to is another. Having different women not work out and going, maybe this is about me. Like it takes a level of awareness to get there. So I want you to walk people slowly. Like, how can they begin to even know what is running the show and where can they start? Because some of us are just walking, going, I'm not good with women. And that may be true, that may not be true. I'm not the expert. He is. Walk someone through who is like carrying something, an identity that might be limiting what they can do. Help me with that.
Great question. Right. So the first thing you're not going to like, it's not a simple, easy answer, and it's unique for all of us because our stories are unique. But the principle that I'll share with you is universally true for all of us, regardless of the situation. But here's what I've learned in coaching in the process. And here's what triggered me. So I'm 25 years old. I've been living this way for a long time. Just this is normal life. This is how you live. Then I meet this person, and this person challenges me, and we start struggling a little bit. And I'm like, man, I don't know what's happening. I don't like what I'm doing. I really want to be with this person. I got to figure something out. So it's an awareness that something of what I'm doing and how I'm living, it was that awareness. And I didn't have any answers. I didn't understand it, but I knew this can't be how this is going to be. So there is a self-awareness. So all of us, everyone listening, you've got to be willing to ask yourself some hard questions. And you have to listen to your vocabulary, because we all have limiting beliefs in our lives that we took on from experiences in our past that we don't realize we have, which is what I was saying. I wasn't thinking about this at 6 or 9 or 15. I was just living my life based on the way I interpreted an experience. I'm just living until I ran into this moment where something challenged it. And I was like, wait a minute. I don't think this is right. I don't think this is the way you do this. I feel like there's something different, but I had no concept of how to get through it or what to do. I just knew something was out of order. right? And so I started paying attention to my words and my language. I can't do this. I'll never be good at this. Well, I've always treated women this way. Well, you don't understand. And I started realizing my language started to betray my beliefs. And they started to point out these limiting beliefs I had, these lies that I had adopted over myself and the people around me that were lies. They weren't true, but I didn't recognize it. So you have to pay attention to the words you're speaking. If you find yourself saying, man, I can't ever do that. Well, I'm no good at this. I'll never be anything like you. I've always had this situation. This is just how life is. All of those kind of conversations are basically speaking over ourselves that we are limited. This is all we can ever do. And this is all that we will ever do. Those are signs that you have a limiting belief somewhere in there that is holding you back. So that's the first step, Prima. You've got to at least acknowledge. So when I interview people for coaching, and I do one-to-one coaching and I do group coaching, but when we talk about it, they have to be willing to self-assess and take an honest assessment of where they are and why they're there. Typically, when people come to me professionally in business or personally, they hit a roadblock. They hit something they can't seem to break through. And they're like, man, I just can't seem to get from here to here. And I don't know why. Okay, great. Are you willing to look at that and really examine it? Because typically they're good at the systems and the processes and the things they need to build, the tactical side to get there. And that's not working. What that means is there's a belief, there's something bigger going on inside of them that's holding them back in that area of their lives. But we can have limiting beliefs in some areas, Prima, but then kill it in other areas. Like I've got a client, $1 million business, he's just killing the business world.
Yeah.
Fifth marriage. Great here, crushing it over here in not a good way. And he just accepted that, says, well, this is just how I am. This is how I am with women. This is how it always works out. So he's put on this belief that his ability to have a healthy, long-lasting relationship with a female is just normal. This is what my life has always looked like with women. And I said, okay, but is that how it has to be? Is that really normal? Or have you accepted something that you didn't need to accept? And now you're living out this pattern. Your behaviors are living out your beliefs that keep cycling through this situation. And he goes, man, I never really thought about it that way. Because he wants a healthy relationship. He doesn't want to be divorced. That's where it always ends up. And I said, okay, if you don't want that, then we've got to figure out what you're believing about this that is causing you to act a certain way that is leading to this result. So when you ask about like, what's the process? How do we go through this? It begins with awareness of saying, man, I don't think this is right. I think there's something here. I don't know why I'm doing this. From that awareness, you've got to be willing to self-examine and ask some hard questions.
I like it.
So when I ask them, this normal that you're living in, what if it's not normal? Are you willing to examine that? And if they say yes, man, we can change the world. If they're willing to examine what they call normal and challenge whether it's really normal or not, anything's possible. From there, we can build and change and transform and create professionally, personally, doesn't matter. But that's the first, I don't know if that helps, Prima, but that's kind of the first place.
It does.
And then we have to start from there. You have to go and replace that belief. You have to change the belief. Right? So let me ask you this, and your listeners that are listening, this is pretty typical in the business world. We're getting a result we don't like. We're not getting the productivity. We're not getting the results. It's just the fruit of our work, our behavior is not getting what we desire. So what do we typically do when we don't get the results we want? What do we typically work on or change? Typically in business, what have you found in your relationships with people who aren't getting the results they want? What do they first try to do?
I like that question because I think I was in a place one time when my business was like stalled. Like I wasn't able to push forward. And then when I started to do this work, I remember answering questions like, is this serving you right now? And so for me, whenever there was a problem, I always ran to strategy. I always ran to the next thing I can flip around. And I remember this coach sitting me in a Zoom room and say, at this point, it is not a strategy. At this point, you have an internal mechanism that is not able to go past this ceiling. And I was like, the first time I heard about that work, I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Because fundamentally,
Exactly right.
if the person is hit a ceiling, the business won't take off or whatever. So I like
And
this. I want you to keep going.
typically what we do, Prima, what you're
Yeah.
saying is typically what we do is we work hard to change the behaviors, the
Yes.
systems, the processes, the
Yes.
strategy,
Yes.
bring in new things. We work really, and here's the truth. You have to change behaviors to get there. You can't have the same actions that got you to where you are that will get you where you want to go. So those have to change. The problem is all of our behaviors that we do that we're trying to change are not sustainable if we don't actually understand the belief that drove the behavior, which is what you were saying. To say there's an internal mechanism. Yeah, there's a belief you have, and all of our behaviors are designed. We are created in such a way that all of our actions are meant to reinforce what we believe. Our beliefs and our behaviors are intricately tied together. Every behavior, we're wired to make sure that our behaviors align with and agree with our beliefs. So if we have a negative belief, all of our behaviors are going to reinforce that negative belief. They're going to keep pounding at it because that's what it knows.
And
so
if
we
you
try to
keep,
change
if you keep looking at the outside, you're not helping because you have to keep repeating that. You have to go back and uproot the root. I like that. Right? I like that.
Yeah. And
Wow.
so part of what we do in the coaching is I help people get to, if they're cycling around the mountain and not going up, they're not seeming to break through, and they've done all the systems and the processes and the strategies, then typically what I start dealing with is, well, what is the belief system that you have around going to this next level? You know, what is, because the beliefs are driving your behaviors are not getting you what you want. You've tried to change your behaviors, but you're not getting there. Why? Because you haven't really dealt with the beliefs that are driving your behavior. So let's address your beliefs. And if we can shift the belief, like my story, the belief was at 6 years old, I'm a bad person and all women are evil. They want bad things. That was my belief. So my whole life was reinforcing that belief by my behaviors. So I had to go back and say, you know what? I'm not a bad person. I'm a good young man. I'm a positive. I love relationships. I want relationships. Not women aren't bad. They're actually helpers and partners, and they're necessary. You know, I had to change all of that. So my mindset shifted. And once I started declaring it, I started acting in the behavior that reinforced it. And so now I've got healthy relationships, and I see women, I see myself differently. I'm no longer a problem or a cause. I'm actually a blessing, right? And a help and a service and a value. But I didn't see that before.
That's really powerful, because the amount of people that are wearing masks and going, I'm like that. It's like that. Uncountable. The process, let's go back. Look in the mirror. Aware. Now I'm aware that I have this thing driving me. I'm willing to examine that I might have some things I believe that are not helping me. And what is the next step? I want someone to go like with a little bit of steps that I can begin to think about when they come to your world of what are they expecting to learn and
Yeah, that's great. So it's here again. You know this because you're a coach, you work with coaches. It's personal, right? So if you and I were sitting down and I was coaching you and we were getting to this place, it's a lot of questions on my part asking you to kind of self-understand, okay, so I would walk you through, what is this belief that you have? What was the source of the belief? Where did that first come in? When did you first start that you can remember? And I'm not talking about psychotherapy or counseling on a couch or, I mean, that's necessary. Maybe that's needed because there's some deep, painful things in there. And I understand that. But this process you can have a lot of transformation without having to go deep into this psychoanalysis. I don't like living in the past. I don't want to spend a lot of time thinking about the past and what happened, because that's why thinking, and why doesn't grow you. Why starts it, but what grows you? What gets you looking forward? Why gets you looking back? What I've understood is you have to ask some why questions to get to the source. So then I can ask what questions. What is it you desire? What is it you're after? That looks forward, right? And so I'm going to ask you some questions to get to, well, where's the source of this belief? What was the experience where you first had this? Well, my parents, they were always really hard on me and always had these high expectations, and everything I did wasn't good enough. Right? Because they just always were driving me. And I get it now, looking back, they weren't mean. It was just, they were just driving me I would just never felt that I was good enough. I never felt whatever I did was enough to get where I wanted or to please them. Okay. You interpreted a situation in that way. So I would ask, okay, so what did you define about that, about yourself? Well, I kind of started realizing I'm not very good at this stuff. I'm not very smart. Not very successful. Okay, that's the belief you took on. And then I would ask you the question, Prima, is that true or is it a lie? Because this is the big question. Is that belief that you took on, how you interpreted that place in your life, is it true? Are you really not smart? Are you really not very talented at this or not very good at that? Are you really whatever? Is that true? I know your behaviors have reinforced it. Well, yeah, I've always had it. I understand your behaviors have said, yes, that's true. But when you took that on in that moment, how you defined it, was that a truth or a lie that you took on? 99.9% of the time, what they started to believe was a lie, based on a lie.
A lie.
So if I can get them to go, yeah. So that lie, how I interpreted that situation, determined how I started to behave, because I started believing the lie. So what I've got to do, so what I would ask you is, okay, so if that's a lie, so if I just took my own story, I am at fault. I am at cause for this abuse. I must not be a good person, right? Because this is what's happening to me. So if I go back to that was a lie, what I would coach myself or coach you through is, okay, tell me what the truth is. Replace the lie with the truth. What would the truth be? I didn't deserve this. I didn't do anything to cause it. I am not a bad person. So I would take the lies and replace them with a truth. That's the first step. You've got to replace the lie with a truth. Here's the thing. I didn't necessarily believe the truth when I replaced it, because I've been living my life this way for so long. So it isn't about declaring a truth that I already believe and I've engaged and I'm walking. It's declaring a truth that is true, period. This is true. I am not that. I am this. Okay. Once I can get them to replace the lie with a truth, now we have to begin to create the declarations and the behaviors that match that truth. So I would say to you, Prima, if this is true in your life, what would be different? How might you show up differently if you believed this to be true? So now I've got to give them a vision of what life might look like in this state of a new truth or new reality. Because we're not living it yet. I haven't changed my behaviors. I just know this was a lie. This is true. Now I want to cast vision, get some motivation. What would be different? How would life look if you actually believed this to be true in your life? How would that look in your relationships, in your business, in your friendships, in your whatever? So now they would paint a picture, a future-paced picture of where they might be in life if they believe this.
Wow.
So now they're feeling it, right? I'm like, oh, okay. So then my next process is, okay, so if that's true, then how do we get from this to that what you believe would be different? That's the gap. We've got to build a bridge.
Wow.
So we start walking through the process and it begins with the declarations, declaring something that you may not believe, but you have to declare it to order to live it, to actually live it. So scientifically, the way we're functioned, our bodies, our emotions, our subconscious is geared to agree with our thoughts and our beliefs. So if I start saying I am, I can, and I will, whatever, my subconscious goes, hey, the boss is saying you can, you are, and you will. Let's get on it. Let's start manifesting that. Let's start moving in that direction. He says that he can do this. He says he's good at math. Well, we're going to
Let's
start
do.
making sure that, so it's going to give us energy and emotion towards something that says we can do this.
This
Now, I
is,
still got to carry it out, but my energy, my belief system begins to shift.
yeah.
Simple. So all of your listeners, here's what I would tell you. So I would want everyone that's listening to go, okay, I want you to think of something hard and painful, something broken, trauma. I want you to think about a place in your life where it was not good. It was hard. It was traumatic.
And you can use me as an example because I have that. Like, always, you can always
Okay.
use me as a guinea pig. Don't worry.
Okay,
I
so
have like those
we don't
moments.
need to discuss it. I don't need to get into it, but I want you to think about a hard trauma place in your life. Okay. How do you feel right now as you think about it? As you bring that back into your consciousness, right? What is the energy and the weight you're starting to feel?
For me, it's a bad place. Like, it's a bad place.
So how
where,
do you feel? What's happening in your body and your
really
emotions?
bad.
What do you what does that mean, really bad? Describe kind of what you're starting to feel.
Really
Like
bad.
what's
It's
beginning to
like
happen?
it's like it's like an, I don't know. I don't feel empowered. I don't feel like can. For me, it was my mom when she got a mental attack for the first time, and I felt like I need to protect myself. Like, I can't survive by myself because my mom is ill and she's mentally challenged. And so it was this place of fear and just knowing that I'm not safe. And it was just this
And
place
so that
of,
emotion,
yeah.
that feeling, that place feels heavy.
Yeah.
The energy is hard, right? And so we start interpreting this. This is not good. It's not safe. It's not okay. And we begin to create a belief around that.
Yes.
And we begin to act based on that fear, that weight, and that emotion.
True.
All of us can go to places where all of a sudden we start thinking about these things we can't do. I've got to go take this test. I've got to go do this. I've got to, oh man, I've never been good at that. I've always, all that stuff, right? And so we feel heavy. Our subconscious begins to embrace that and say, okay, that's where we're at. Let's live there. Let's lean into it. Let's reinforce it. Let's keep moving there. And so we get stuck in that place. Now I want you to think about a place of joy and happiness, success, some place where you're like, man, I killed it. This is great. This is an accomplishment. This is an engagement. Can you think of something like that?
I'm actually in that place because for me, it was showing up in my marriage. Like, I wasn't stepping down and allowing the man to do his thing. Like, I was always trying to shield myself, protect myself, provide for myself. Yes. And I was like, what's wrong with you? And when that's coming from a place of love, of somebody who just want to protect and provide and care for you, that's when you go, okay, something is wrong. Like, why am I doing this? Yet I know that this guy really, really wants to do the best for me. And for me, that is a point where I reached and I was like, yeah, this is off. We need to fix it. And
you just described a limiting belief, belief that he's not safe. His intentions aren't pure. They're not for me. We wouldn't have said that, but you had a belief that this relationship, a limiting belief that says this relationship actually isn't going to serve me.
I actually had the belief was that I wasn't safe as a person and I needed to show up, provide for myself, be this superwoman. But then the problem I had is I married this man who challenges that belief because he had pure intentions and wanted to provide. And I was like, okay, this is not congruent to what I believe. And I found myself really stepping up, defending myself, trying to provide for myself.
Yes.
I had to step down.
You just described my process. This is the process. That was a limiting belief about yourself, your safety, your future, what you could do. And it was a lie. It was based on a lie.
Finding this helpful.
At one point in your life, it served you because it protected you. It kept you from harm. It was probably a place in your life at some point that actually helped you because of the situation you were in. But you didn't know how to let it go. So it stayed with you throughout life. Now you're in this relationship going, this guy's awesome, yet I'm still acting this way. Why? Because I have a belief that says I have to. Yeah. So you had to identify the lie, replace it in your mind with saying, no, he's for me. I'm okay. I'm safe with him. I have value. Whatever it is, I can do this. So now you replaced it with a truth. And your behaviors now had to say, oh, my goodness, wait a minute. Prima's no longer believing this. She believes this. Oh, we've got to help reinforce that. So your behavior started to align with the new belief, which allowed that relationship to actually become what it was meant to be.
It's powerful. I really wish people could just stop and understand that there is this thing called subconscious, that you have all the power to command and it will do what you want. It's really, really powerful. Rick, I want to pivot more into the book. I want people to hear about your book. Tell us about the book. Tell us what is inside the book.
We've been talking about it. That is the book. Everything I've been sharing with you. So it's this book is 100 pages. It's one piece of my coaching, Born Limitless, right? So it is in one part of my coaching, and it's all about what we've been talking about. This talks about the framework of how we create the beliefs that we have that drive our behaviors, that get our results. So it's the story of that. It's a small piece, but it's the most powerful piece of how we get to where we are based on what we believe that leads to our behaviors, that gets our outcomes. And so I attack that. In the book, I attack this thing and say, if you don't like the outcomes you're getting, you've got to go back and understand the beliefs that are driving your behaviors. And so I create the awareness. The book is about an awareness around limiting beliefs and this idea that you were actually born limitless. Being born limitless, that reality, that truth is not dependent upon life and its circumstances or other people. It's just a truth. But then life happens. You with me? And when life happens, we begin to interpret how it happens. So here's an example. Both of my children, my son's 29, my daughter's 25. Both of them are adopted. Okay? I was in the hospital with them when they were born. They are our kids from day one. But here's the thing. They were conceived in a violent act, in rape. Both of their conceptions with the birth moms. So the birth moms could have easily said, based on the world and everything else, this life is not planned. It's not valued. It's not important. We can dispose of this life. And I'm not trying to make an opinion about life and pro-life and not. I'm just saying they had to make a decision, and the world would have said it's okay if you choose not to keep this child. But they made a choice to keep the child. Even in their circumstances, the conditions of their conception, their family environments, none of that was good. It was hard. It wasn't conducive for a healthy child to be brought into. But that child had nothing to do with that. Right? So that child was conceived in a hard place, brought into a life that could have been very difficult and not helpful. That doesn't mean anything about the potential, the possibility, the limitless life inside of that child that is still true and real. Yet they're coming into an environment that says, nope, this is all you'll ever get. This is what life's going to look like. Here's the circumstances you have. Just deal with it. And I'm saying we are born limitless regardless of the circumstances, situations, or people around us. It's how we interpret those. How we define those as we start growing up, and we're growing up in a poverty-stricken area. Listen, I've been to Africa a lot. I've not been to Uganda, but I'm coming. But I've done a lot of work overseas. And I'll go into communities where poverty is rampant. Right? And so it's just really, and so there are generations that have lived in this place. And I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm not judging it, but there are some people that get out. And they actually go like, we succeed. We move away from it. How does that happen? Somewhere inside of them, they determine that their environment is not their ceiling. It's not what it has has to be.
You're describing my life right now. When I look at my
somewhere they grab a picture or a vision of something greater. And so they now don't allow their environment, their circumstances, or their past to define them. It's no longer their ceiling. See, we were never meant to have the circumstances of our life, our past, or people define our future. But we do. We let our past and the environment and circumstances define our future. It was never meant to do that. But if once we do, then we settle in and say, this is what life looks like. Because I don't have the same opportunity as Rick in the United States. I don't have the same opportunity as this person who lives over there who has more money. You're right. Circumstances don't give you the same resources and tools to just go get something. But it doesn't mean that you can't be something greater. But we define
it
greater
doesn't,
by the person
yeah, it
across
doesn't
the
really
street.
mean you're limited. Like it doesn't. When I look at my environment and I look at everybody in Uganda and I look at what I'm doing, there's no evidence that I can do this. There's no evidence that this is possible. There's no evidence that I'm even wired for this. So what you're saying makes a lot of sense. Like your
So
circumstances
I'm going
don't
to
define
challenge.
you. Yeah.
I want to challenge you, Prima. So here's the reality, right? So does that mean that all these people, that environment, that none of them were born with limitless potential and possibility? No, every one of them had the same limitless createdness that says there is a future and a hope, a purpose and a vision, influence and impact that life is created to have. But we allow the environment and circumstances to tell us something different. And we accept that as true, and we live into it and settle for something less. And until we're challenged or provoked or cast a vision of something greater and challenge our thoughts and takes that lie that says, this is all you'll ever be, Prima. This is all you'll ever be. Just settle it. Just take it. Don't go after that. Just, this is all you'll ever be. Till you go, you know what? Maybe not. Maybe I could be something else. The minute you challenge your normal, which is what I ask people, are you willing to challenge the normal? The minute you're willing to challenge normal, the opportunity and possibility for everything changes.
Man, that's powerful. Challenge your normal. Challenge your normal. I wish that everybody who is tied up by where I was born and how I was born and who raised me and all of these things would watch this video, because this is very, very powerful. There's a lot of people that are living half or nothing about their potential, and literally they're just living in this place of, you were born here, this is how things are done, and so this is your life, and they've accepted that. And it's a very painful place for me to think about, because there's a lot of people that are close to me that are there. And so my hope is that people really get to this video, share this video, and someone can get the awareness that, you know what, you're probably not living in your potential. There's more in you that you've not.
And someone just needs to speak that over them, right? Sometimes it's just someone speaking possibility over someone, because our words are powerful. Here's another thing I really want people to hear. So I think this is really important, because sometimes we miss this. The circumstances of your life and the emotions and the feelings that are tied to those, poverty, abuse, trauma, loss of a family, whatever. I want everyone to hear that's real. And the emotion is real. The feelings are real. No one should ever say to you, you shouldn't feel that way. And if you just stop feeling like that and acting like that and somehow dismiss the emotion and the feeling, I'm a person of faith, and I believe we were created to feel things, to have emotion. I think it's one of the most amazing gifts that we have. But I also think it's one of the most challenging and painful gifts that we have, because we feel, we have emotion. So I want people to hear, wherever you are, there's an emotion tied with that. There's a feeling tied with that. And that's real. But what I want people to understand, where the change comes, where the difference comes, is how are you going to interpret and define that emotion and that feeling? Don't denounce it or say you can't feel that. You're going to feel it. But how you define it and interpret it has everything to do with where you're going to go and what you can be. When you interpret that as, that's my identity, that's me, that's who I am, that's what I have, that's all I'm going to get, and you interpret that environment, which is neutral. It's not attacking you. It's an environment that you found yourself in. But it isn't your identity. It isn't your destiny. So acknowledge, this is the reality of my circumstances, my emotions and my feelings, but I'm going to choose to define them and myself differently.
I love her.
Because remember, how we define that, how we interpret it, determines what we're going to believe. So if I believe that environment or circumstance is my identity, what's my behaviors going to be? My belief is this is my life. This is what life looks like. This is all I know. This is all it can be. So now my behaviors keep me in that place because my behaviors have to agree with my belief. They have to. Now we can try behaviors that don't agree with our beliefs, but those behaviors will eventually realign with that belief. So if we change the belief, our behaviors will eventually realign with the new belief. So if I believe that this environment is hard and rough and not okay, but I am able to rise above it, I can do something else, I can see something greater, then my behaviors are going to start driving me towards that.
Wow.
I don't know how to get out of the poverty. I don't know how to get out of this community to that one over there. I don't see the road. That road will appear as we begin to believe I can actually make it. But if I never believe that there's a road there, I'm never going to look for it.
Yeah.
I'm never going to seek it. I'm not saying just because I believe it, I'll get there. This is not about this manifestation thing that says, oh, because I believe it, I'm going to show up there one day. No, I still got to do the hard work. I still have to engage this belief, but you cannot get there or stay there without the belief that says you can. So this is where it all starts, right here.
This is powerful, Rick. This is powerful. I want you to tell us exactly if the book is available, how they get the book, and all of those good things, because I know this book will change lives, and would like to link the links in the comment below. So if you miss it,
absolutely,
don't worry, look in the comments. There will be everything about how to get the book, when is the book accessible, and all of that good stuff. Be sure to check in the show notes. So go for it, Rick.
So all of our global friends that you have and that I have, all of our global friends, my advice to you is two things. One, get connected with me through social media. That's one of the things I do love about social media is we can become a global community. And so that's just my name, at Rick Torrison. If you'll follow me on Instagram, that's really where you can learn what I'm doing and get information. And if you message me on Instagram with a limiting belief, I will send you a one-page kind of summary of things I've said, some questions to help you begin to deal with and overcome that limiting belief. So that's one thing. The book, if you're in the global world, I would say go to the retailers. Go online to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, those places, and put in my name in the book, Born Limitless, and you can order through those mechanisms. I'm in a pre-order, so some of them will say you won't get the book until, but go in that process and you can get the book that way. If you're in the United States, then I would say go to bornlimitlessbook.com and order that way, and it'll distribute and be shipped May 7th through the 12th. If you're global and you go that way, my problem is the shipping costs, because that's a different mechanism, aren't built in. Right. And so Prima, if you order through bornlimitlessbook.com, you're going to get the cost of the book, and then I've got to pay the shipping to get it to Uganda because it's not built in.
Like here, the way we order is we go into the bookshop and we order the book there because they get them in bulk. And so they can, I'm sure everyone has the way they can enter a bookshop and pre-order the book there, because that's how we get the books in Uganda. That's how I got Rory's books. That's how we just get in there and ask the bookshop to order the book for us, and then they always bring it within cost. So
so that would be however that works wherever you are in the world. Go through the mechanisms there. The book is on all the platforms, so it's there. And then if you're in the US, you can go directly through me with bornlimitlessbook.com. Then I'll ship that. It'll all come out, but everything ships May 7th through the 12th because I'm working on trying to get on a bestseller list and stuff. So it's cool. It's a process. It's exhausting. I'm learning a lot. But yeah, and then just, help me by, if you like it, you like the message, share it with some friends, tag some people and say, hey, this sounds good. Would you help this guy get this message out? Social media at Rick Torrison, it'll be in the notes, bornlimitlessbook.com in the US, and then whatever your platforms are for ordering books, wherever you are in the world, you can go on those platforms and order it that way. And if for some reason you can't, and you can't find it, go to my social media and let me know. I'll make sure you get it. If you want a copy, I will make sure that you get a copy. Trust me. So that's what I would say, Prima. And I thank you for that opportunity to share that, and hopefully we can bless some people and encourage their lives and help them walk into their true potential.
I can't wait to get my hands on this book, Rick. I can't wait to buy a copy for my family and friends. This book is gonna change lives. This show is gonna change lives. I can already see that. And I am very honored that you were my very, very first guest on the show.
Hey, come on.
It's a blessing to me. It tells me how many years we have ahead to go in business. And so I'm very honored. For the listeners that came today, appreciate you hopping on the show. If you haven't already, you may want to consider subscribing and following the show.
Subscribe.
Come every week. We will have a video or 2 or 3. I'm creating this in motion. I am just creating in the flow. I'm taking guests as they come. So I don't have like a schedule. Come whatever. Just come in every week at your time and catch the latest and greatest. You will always find people that have tissue and scars that you can learn from. I'd like to do everything I can to make this the most practical and relatable podcast you will listen to. And whatever you think you need to listen to, whichever guests you want on, whatever topics you want covered, put that in the comment section, because I want this to be a people's podcast. I want to produce what you want. So if this speaker served you, put it in the comment section. If you want him back, put it in the comment section. If you want to connect with Rick, go to his socials, go to Instagram, send him a message. He responds to his messages. If you want the book, get the book. And once you get the book, tag me, tag Rick, Prima Job. I am on Facebook mainly. Tag us and tell us about the book. I'm excited for today. Thank you so much for listening in. And Rick, thank you for being our guest today. Do you have any final remarks?
I would say thank you. Prima, you are an inspiration to me. I've loved getting to know you. There will be a day that we will be face to face and I'm going to hug your neck. Right. And so I just want you to know I'm a hugger. So we gonna get that hug in one day. Right. And to all the people that are just tuning in or just starting, share, post, tag, because here's the thing. You can get a lot of podcasts out there, and I've been doing a bunch. You're not going to get anyone more real and transparent than Prima. And that's a good thing. It's not about perfection. It's about being perfected in the journey and the process. And that's what I love about Prima and her story and my story is just, man, this is real. This is just, we're just trying to get it. We're working it out. We're working it out. So come work it out with Prima. If you've got questions or you need something, she's definitely the one to know how to ask some powerful questions and help you elevate your life personally and professionally. So I'm excited. I'm blessed, honored to be the first. And so thank you, my friend. And I just look forward to our relationship as it moves forward. Anything I can do for you, you got me in your corner.
We got a bounce. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. I hope that today we gave you an example of what it looks like in perfect action. If you have that idea you're trying to take to market and you're like, it's not perfect. No, just go for it. Your audience want to see the good, they want to see the bad, but they also want to see the ugly. Your audience know that you're a human being. And so they want to see you as you stumble, as you fall, as you get up. The best way to demonstrate that your audience can do it is you do it imperfect in front of them. And so I am hoping that this show will give you the permission to do that. That is it, my friend. To listen to more exclusive interviews like this one, simply go to the World's Best Kept Secret podcast.com and select interviews based on preferred topic.